Welcome to episode 14 of the Deficient Vegans Podcast. I'm the Muscle Deficient Vegan here with the Protein Deficient Vegan. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi, everybody. So today we're going to talk about dietary fats a little bit. We've done a couple of episodes about carbohydrates and another episode about macronutrients. And then we also did one about fiber. So now we're going to talk a little bit about dietary fat. And next week, I think we're going to talk about protein in a little more detail. So right off the bat, dietary fat has 9 calories per gram of fat. Protein has 4, carbohydrates have 4. So fat is over twice as calorically dense as protein or carbohydrates. So that means you have to pay extra attention to fat sources when you're trying to count calories, because you can get a handful of almonds or walnuts or something, and that'll be, maybe 200 calories. So it's really easy to get a lot of calories from something that's high in fat. It's also pretty easy to go over your calories with oils. If you put an extra tablespoon of oil in something, that's like an extra 120 calories. And people are pretty generous with oil if they're not measuring calories at all. So you got to be careful with that. That also includes restaurants. Restaurants, even if they just make you some vegetables or something, they'll tend to put a lot of oil in that. So you really got to be careful with oils in general.
You know what's really deceiving?
What is?
Freaking peanut butter, man.
Oh, peanut butter, yes.
You think, oh, this is 2 tablespoons. No, it's not. That's a half of a cup.
Yeah, if you actually pull out a serving of peanut butter, you'll be very disappointed and quickly realize you have never made a sandwich with probably less than like 3 servings of peanut butter.
Yeah, I always weigh it because it's like the most deceptive thing in the world.
Yeah. And I've still got it in my mind that peanut butter is like protein, right? So I'll make like a PB&J and be like, oh yeah, I've got my high protein sandwich. It's really not at all. It's not even close.
Now it's got like 5 grams or something.
Yeah. But, that's what I tell myself to feel better.
Well, yeah.
So for fats specifically, they're made up of something called fatty acids, right? So there are a lot of different fatty acids. We're only going to talk about a couple that are kind of relevant. And in general, fatty acids are broken up into essential fatty acids and non-essential fatty acids. All right. So
if you have inclement weather, the non-essentials, they can go home.
Actually, they can go home all the time because you don't ever need them. So they can they're fired. Non-essential fatty acids are fired. So the essential fatty acid, and we're talking about nutrition, what essential means is your body can't make it on its own, so you need to get it from food. Right. So the essential fatty acids are omega-3 and omega-6. The omega-6 fatty acid is one called linoleic acid. So it's just LA. You won't really go hunting that one out. We tend to get quite a bit of omega-6 in our diet. So on the omega-3 side of things, which is typically where we want to focus on because we have a lower amount of that in our diet in general, and it's really beneficial for health. In the plant world, we mostly only get that in a form called ALA, which is alpha linoleic acid. And that's not quite as bioavailable as the forms you might get outside of plants that are called DHA and EPA. ALA will turn into those forms that your body needs, but it's at a lower rate and it's less bioavailable than just getting EPA and DHA directly. So one way that we can kind of get around that is to use a vegan algae oil supplement for omega-3, because that is directly EPA and DHA instead of being ALA.
I've heard from people that take the non-vegan kind, it gives them like fish burps.
Right. Yeah. You don't get any fish burps with algae oil.
Yeah. So we don't hurt fish, and also we don't get gross aftertaste.
Exactly. And omega-3s in general are associated with a lower risk of heart disease. So it's good to try to get them in. It's better to try to get them in food. But again, with plant-based sources, you have to kind of get a lot more because of the conversion rate on the ALA is so low. So you can use a supplement to help with that. But you'll also get it in your diet naturally.
Where do you get omega-3s from?
Well, that is also from various seeds and nuts and produce.
Do you have any specific ones you would recommend people to eat?
Flax seeds and soy both are fairly high in omega-3. Soy oil specifically, but you get soy oil when you eat something like tofu.
So another reason to eat tofu.
Yeah. Maybe not so much TBP since it's defatted.
Yeah.
But yeah, straight tofu. And then so for the non-essential fatty acids, those all fall under what we're going to talk about here in a second, which are basically saturated fats and trans fats.
Like tasty stuff, probably.
In some cases, yeah. Also, monounsaturated fats are non-essential. So overall, there are 4 different types of fat. So there's monounsaturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, saturated fat, and trans fat. So the one we want to really try to get the most of is the polyunsaturated fats. Those are the ones that really have big health benefits for, lowering cholesterol, lowering the risk of heart disease, and things like that. The next best is monounsaturated fat. So that's typically, you think of that as olive oil. That's a big one for monounsaturated fat. And it's healthier than saturated fat, but not quite as healthy as a polyunsaturated fat.
What would be a polyunsaturated fat?
All the stuff for the omega-3 and omega-6 sources like we talked about. So seeds, nuts, soy, things like that. So for the polyunsaturated fat, they are typically anti-inflammatory, so they will help with inflammation. Polyunsaturated fats are also necessary for your skin health. They help with skin elasticity. And in the modern diet, we get a ratio of about 16:1 for omega-6 to omega-3. It would be ideal to get that closer to 1:1, which is why you typically see people supplementing omega-3 and nobody really supplements omega-6.
So I think like everyone knows what mono versus poly is.
Yeah.
Mono is like one, poly is a few.
Right.
So what's the difference between saturated and unsaturated?
I'm not quite sure. It's very in-depth, sciencey fat acid things.
Okay, so I Googled it. Do you want me to tell you?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so saturated fats are tightly packed with no double bonds between them. There are some exceptions, but most of them are solid at room temperature. An example for the vegan aspect would be coconut and palm oils.
Oh, okay.
And since those say solid at room temperature, some studies say that that's what causes hardening of fats and arteries. So meanwhile, unsaturated fats are loosely packed and they tend to stay liquid at room temperature. And some of those things could include olive oil, peanut oil, avocados, and then most nuts and seeds.
Awesome. Thanks for using your super Google powers to get us more information.
You're welcome. I can type.
Cool. So move on to saturated fat. So replacing saturated fat with unsaturated fat in your diet has been shown to lower blood cholesterol. So a lot of the times people will think as saturated fat as the bad fat. There is some debate about this out there, but I think the studies are pretty clear that high levels of saturated fat in general tend to lead to worse outcomes as far as heart disease and blood cholesterol.
Are we talking about the carnivore diet?
Well, the carnivore diet is one diet that does tend to prefer saturated fat. So it would fall in the category.
I always say trust in science.
I think there are also some other diets that do that.
Like keto?
Keto, yeah. There's a lot of keto people who tend to do saturated fat. And keto diet has pretty good outcomes, but again, a lot of that is probably from eliminating junk food, like most diets.
They're short-term positive outcomes. There aren't really any studies that show long-term you would benefit from a high saturated fat diet, right?
I'm not aware of any. So if anybody has any of those studies, feel free to share it with us and we can talk about it.
The things that make you go,
Yeah. I mean, we're open-minded. So if we see studies in the future or come across anything that shows positive benefits of saturated fat, we'll come back and talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
We can get saturated fat from a plant-based diet if we need to.
You guys keep waiting on that study information.
Yeah. Although in our case, because it's kind of hard to even get that as a vegan, I guess we would just end up having to eat a lot of coconuts. I think that's the...
Dude, I like coconut oil. Did you know you can make instant hard shell chocolate topping out of coconut oil?
Oh, I know. I think everybody listening should know, but I am well educated in this magic trick. Yeah.
Okay, this is really cool. You just melt chocolate chips and a little bit of coconut oil, and then you just stir that shit together and you pour it on ice cream.
Yeah.
Instant hard shell.
It works really well.
Yeah. So if you're trying to get some saturated fats in your diet, that'd be a good way to do it.
Yeah, so the American Heart Association recommends limiting your saturated fat intake to about 5 to 6% of your overall calorie intake.
So maybe don't eat too much hard shell.
Right. And I would recommend using all of that allotment of 5% of your caloric intake on the chocolate hard shell.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Okay. And then the last one is trans fats, which have no benefits in the diet. You should really avoid those as much as possible. You'll mostly see them in like prepackaged foods, frozen foods, things like ramen noodles historically have been pretty bad about having trans fats in them. The FDA has actually banned in the United States adding additional trans fats to food now.
Which is hard to believe because they don't seem to care about our foods at all here.
Yeah, not a lot of hard rules.
So it must be really bad if the FDA cares about it.
Well, think about how the food would be if they weren't there, though. It would probably be worse somehow.
That's true.
And just so you know, some trans fats do occur naturally in food. And the natural occurrence isn't really in a high enough amount to matter at all. So it's not anything you have to worry about if you find some natural foods that have trans fats in them.
It's more of the
added.
The chemically creating foods out of a lab.
Right.
Okay.
So something you might wonder is, does eating fat turn into fat? Right? So it's like, if you eat fat, does that make fat on your body? So the main way, obviously, that you gain body weight, and that can be fat or muscle, is with a calorie surplus. But they've done some studies with like a handful of people, I think around 10 people, in a metabolic ward where they matched calories and just swapped out carbohydrates for fat at different levels. And it looks like eating fat does convert a little more readily to body fat, but it's such a small degree that I think, overall, calories are obviously still the main driver. But if you're really trying to optimize, you probably lean more into carbohydrates in your overall dietary plan than you would in fat, because fat can store a little easier.
So what are the benefits of eating fat? Like, what does it do for your body? Is that the one thing that helps joints and stuff?
Yeah, so fat helps with your joints. Fat helps, like we said, with skin elasticity. Fat is also required for a couple of the fat-soluble vitamins. I think it was vitamin A, D, E, and K. Those require fat to actually absorb into your body, so that's another big use case. Fat is good for developing your vision and neurological development.
So back to eyesight. It's fat I need, not carrots. Is this why my eyesight is so shitty?
Well, carrots have a vitamin. Fats.
Why am I a -6.5?
Well, actually, so fats are required for the vitamin that helps your eyes, which I think is vitamin A in carrots. All right, so that's pretty much all we have on dietary fats. If you have any questions, again, there are actually a lot of different fatty acids and a lot of very scientific details that we didn't go into depth here on, because it doesn't really affect you once you know kind of what you're supposed to eat. But if you want to deep dive in that, feel free to reach out and ask questions and we can talk about them. A couple cool things in the news this week. We talked a little bit about the Olympics last week. The Olympics are going on now. Turns out there are 7 vegan athletes in the Olympics this year. I saw a couple of them on Team USA, and a couple of them are scattered throughout different sports and different countries. So that's pretty cool to see some representation there from the vegans.
Love that.
Yeah. Also, the Olympics is really focusing on sustainability quite a bit. We talked last week also about the cardboard beds. They are doing 2 times the amount of plant-based meals as they did last year. They're also doing some stuff like they have a headquarters they set up for the Olympics that's going to be turned into office buildings after the Olympics is over. And then they have a lot of stuff that they're using for housing staff and things like that is all temporary housing. Pretty cool. They aren't trying to not leave a trace as much as they can with that huge event going on.
Very cool. And if you have not seen the movie about the sharks that inhabit this river in Paris that's on Netflix, it has nothing to do with anything he just said, but it was really good.
Yeah, that would make me not want to swim in that river, even though it was just a movie. Right?
What was it called? Basically, they were having the Olympics there, I think, right? Like
they were having a marathon.
Oh, is it just a marathon?
Or a I guess it's a triathlon.
Yeah, but they were going to be in the river, and there were all these sharks that were like having babies, and shark babies were everywhere, and then they grew really fast. They're like mutant shark babies, and they killed everyone. Under Paris, was that it?
Yeah, the movie was called Under Paris.
A solid 5.2 on IMDb. Yeah. I would rate it for more. Lots of shark deaths.
Yeah, we kind of like those campy animals killing people movies, though. So.
Yes.
Also, at the Republican National Convention, we saw that Veg News posted an article about some vegan jackfruit brisket that they were, I guess, selling at the event. And they said that it was really high in demand and it kept selling out. So that's pretty cool to see. A vegan, first of all, a vegan meal being available there at all, and then a vegan meal being in such high demand that they can't even keep it in stock. So,
might have to attempt to make a jackfruit brisket, though I've never had actual brisket and don't know what that is.
I'm going to be honest, most of the stuff I've tried with jackfruit, I haven't been a big fan of.
I think that's because you and I don't know how to cook it right.
Maybe that's it, yeah. We stick to the seitan and tofu.
Yeah, jackfruit's a weird one to me because it's like, doesn't have protein really, but
Yeah.
people use it as a protein substitute, and I don't understand
And
it.
it seems like it is usually in some kind of barbecue. And
Yeah.
the texture does lend itself to it, but I don't know. I've just never really, I much prefer seitan-based barbecue.
Yeah, or like tofu even.
Yeah, tofu barbecue is pretty good. But seitan is like, the texture is like really, really good for barbecue.
Yeah, might have to jack around with jackfruit though.
Nice.
Maybe I can get less shitty with it.
Yeah, we don't have any new recipes to talk about this week. You'll still see some posted, but they're ones we've already talked about. But, you know, we were hanging out in downtown Chicago for the weekend, not cooking our own food for once. So that was pretty nice. If you ever happen to be in downtown Chicago, a lot of good vegan restaurant options. Specifically, if you like donuts, Voodoo Donuts has a lot of good vegan donuts.
Those were really good. The apple fritter, the vegan apple fritter was top notch.
That place is not all vegan, but they have a really good vegan menu for their donuts.
Yeah. And then Kitchen 17.
Yeah, Kitchen 17, all-time favorite out there they have vegan pizzas, and they are fully vegan, and everything there is usually really good.
And if you don't live in Chicago, they actually ship, I think, across the whole country in the U.S. You can get, like, any of the pizzas frozen.
Yeah, and in our experience, the frozen ones are just as good as the ones we get in the store there. So
yeah, they're great, and they have a bunch of different flavors. But our favorite is just regular deep dish cheese. It's always so good.
A couple other good ones. Elephant and Vine had some really good breakfast options. That's another fully vegan place.
And they had like a burger, like a mammoth burger.
Yeah, mammoth burger. That was really good. It's basically like kind of like a Big Mac, but without the middle bun situation. They had like what they call mammoth sauce, I guess. It's kind of like a Big Mac sauce.
Now, if you're from Chicago or ever eaten in Chicago, we used to have Herbivore, which had the Big Macs, which was like our favorite thing of all time in Chicago, but that closed about a year ago. This gets pretty close.
Yeah.
The mammoth burger at Elephant and Vine is pretty solid.
Yeah. Also, we had the Chicago Diner. That was really good.
Yeah. So that's a vegetarian place, but I think you can make almost everything on the menu vegan. They had something called a pierogi quesadilla, which I'm definitely going to have to figure out how to make a recipe for that because it was really good.
Yeah, it had like sauerkraut and potatoes and a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah,
there, right?
And like cheese and chives and a tortilla. And then it was a quesadilla. It was crazy. It was a carb overload. It was really good. And, you know, if you're ever in Chicago on a Saturday morning, Pie Pie My Darling is a bakery that only does pre-sale on Saturday mornings. And you have to pre-order, basically. She has certain cake flavors each week. But she does distribute through local restaurants. So there are a lot of restaurants in the Chicago area that sell Pie Pie My Darling cakes. And she is incredibly talented. All of her stuff that we've ever tried has been super good.
Vegan baked goods are hard to find ones that they get right. Like Pie Pie My Darling is always solid. The Kitchen 17 pizza place we talked about earlier always has really good vegan desserts and baked goods. And then we go to another place here locally called Tiger Lily Cafe.
It's hard to find ones that actually have moist, especially on cakes. A lot of them are not very like moist for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, those three always come through.
Yeah. So, you know, totally useless information to anybody who's never going to be anywhere near Chicago.
Unless you're ordering pizza from Kitchen 17, because they ship.
That's true. But there are a lot of vegans in Chicago, so there's probably at least a couple out there listening to this.
And if you're planning a trip, because we do this thing where we try to find vegan cities to go check out and just basically spend a week eating a bunch of random vegan food. You know, like lazy losers. That's like something that we do. But anyway, if you are people like that, Chicago would be a great place for you to visit.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that note, if you're in a city and it's got a really good vegan spot, please send that to us because we will go there and try it at some point.
Yes. We always look for recommendations.
Yeah.
We're going to go to Wisconsin, Milwaukee in a couple months and try all their vegan fare.
Yeah.
So if you have been to Milwaukee and have vegan recommendations, tell us.
Yeah. And we'll report back if we found anything really cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got for this week. Do you want to say bye?
Bye.
Bye, everybody.